Hey everybody! Today I have Artie Cat with me. Artie, want to say hello? So we're going to do a little bit later than planned, a very quick recap of everything that I've read this year, which is a lot. And everything I've read this year is actually just January and February because March will hopefully have its own video and and we'll actually be able to take more time. So while Artie gets settled, let's hop into it. Alright guys, now that Artie's settled, we're going to start off with my January reads. The first book I read this year... Hi Artie. The first book I read this year was A Scandal at Stonecliffe by Candace Camp. This is the third book in a series, and you don't necessarily need to read the first two books to understand this book, but I would recommend it because you get to see some of the backstory that is mentioned in this book that just kind of makes our characters more lovable. So we have Nathan and Verity, and he is a very put-together gentleman, does things by the rules, and she's a spy in Regency-era Britain. So we're going to watch them. Spoiler alert, it's a romance novel, so we watch them fall in love. This was my favorite book so far in the series, and I gave it a 4 stars. I do like to give stars, but it's very much like in the moment how I feel, and at the end of the year, sometimes there's some reshuffling. My next book was a Star Wars novel. I always try to do at least one Star Wars novel a year, and I try to do it in January because I'm a nerd. We're in the middle of the darkest times of the year, and Star Wars always brings me some hope. So this year was Master and Apprentice, and we follow along with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, and we get to see their relationship grow more than what we see in the movies and the TV series. Claudia Gray does a great job. Not one of my top all-time Star Wars novels, but it was a very good book. I also, even though I owned the physical copy, I did this on Audible. So I got the dramatic reading, and you get to hear the lightsabers and the fights, and it's a really good time if you like that. If you're not a fan of all the extra things in audiobooks, maybe not the dramatic reading of this one, but I did give this a 3.75 stars. Pretty high, like a great book, but not my all-time favorite Star Wars novel. Then one of my most anticipated books of the year dropped in January. We love an author who gives us a book right at the beginning of the year. And Segura, she's our girl. We got Temple of Swoon. This is the second book in at least a trilogy. And I would recommend reading the first book. Kind of like Scandal at Stonecliffe, you don't need it, but there are a lot of callbacks to the first book sprinkled throughout the novel. I loved this book. Loved it. I ate it up. I think I read it in 2 days, and they were 2 working days. I got this the day it was released, and I think I finished it Thursday of that same week. I was just fixing. I have some fan art for this book. If you can't see it, there's some vine swinging that happens in this book. So Segura, both of her books are contemporary romances, and think female empowerment meets Indiana Jones. We have our female archaeologist. This one, our female lead, Mira, is on a dig, and she meets Rafi. And he is not an archaeologist, he's a photojournalist. And this is secret enemies to lovers. So she thinks that they're just vibing. But in reality, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, probably should have said that earlier, huh? Rafi is out to sabotage the dig. It's not too much of a spoiler because it's on the back of the book. But he is out to sabotage the dig. Why would he do that? That you'll have to read to find out. So, surprise or secret, enemies to lovers. The next two books, these were two physical books that I read back to back, but I did listen to an audiobook in between. But I want to talk about them together because it's a duology. Our queen, Julia Quinn, she knows how to write a good romance, especially Regency era. Love her. She is the author who got me into reading again as an adult. Bridgerton dropped, found it on Netflix. Oh my God. Then I found out it was a book. Loved it, loved the books. And now I just own almost every single Julia Quinn book there is, and I'm slowly working my way through her catalog. So these are some of her earlier works: Brighter Than the Sun and Everything in the Moon. And Everything in the Moon is the first in the duology. Brighter Than the Sun is the second in the duology. We follow a pair of sisters, and Everything in the Moon is a second chance insta love romance, pardon me. So, I don't know. This one actually wasn't my favorite Julia Quinn ever. I really only gave it a 3 stars, which is kind of low for Julia Quinn for me. Julia, if you ever see this, I still love you. I found our male lead a little bit too annoying. Annoying is the word I'm going to go with, because he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He just wasn't for me. So I was kind of nervous going into Brighter Than the Sun because the first book was kind of meh, in my opinion. This book, though, this one saved it for me. I gave Everything in the Sun 4 stars. Giggled, ate it up. We follow our little sister, Ellie. And this is a marriage of convenience. Back when I first started reading as an adult, I didn't think I would like the marriage of convenience trope or like proximity, but I do. I really enjoy it. And I just like these two people who come together each because they need something. She needs her freedom, and he needs his inheritance that he can't get without marrying. And I like watching them fall in love when they think they're not going to be together, or they think that this is just, we're in it for our own reasons. We're going to be friends and we're going to be friendly, but we're not in it for love. And then watching them fall in love is just beautiful to me. So, Brighter Than the Sun. I think I said Everything in the Sun a little bit earlier, and that was a whoopsie. 4 stars. Next, gotta pull in this big stack of books, so give me a second. Did you hear that thump when I set these books down? They're huge. I am also not gonna lie. These beauties I listen to. I enjoy listening to fantasy because then I know how to pronounce the names that I don't necessarily know how to pronounce when I'm reading it. And I started this book, I started Fourth Wing because I had so many people tell me it was good. And I thought, it's not going to live up to the hype, but it might be an okay time to listen to. It might do a good job. And when I say I fully drank the Kool-Aid, Ride or Die, Fourth Wing, Welcome to the Imperium. I'm part of the club. I finished listening to the Fourth Wing and immediately dove in to Iron Flame. Had to find out what happened next. And I think I was really lucky because I finished Iron Flame 2 days before Onyx Storm came out. I don't think I even finished Iron Flame before I pre-ordered both the book and the audiobook of Onyx Storm. So I think there's something to be said for the fact that I just did the first 3 straight through. And maybe that's why I loved them so much. Respectively, I did 5 stars, 4.75 stars, and 5 stars. Iron Flame lost me a little bit. Obviously not a lot. 4.75 stars, still very high. But I just loved it all. Now, if you haven't heard of the craziness that is this book series, to sum it up in the briefest possible way, dragons that can talk to you, and we're at war. And our female main character, vastly underestimated. She is the underdog. If you like an underdog story where they come out and they are secretly, maybe not the strongest physically, but they know what's going on and they play key roles, this has that. If you want strong women, has this. If you want strong men, also has that. Both, like, Rebecca paints us a picture, and it's a pretty picture, but they're just good people. You fall in love with them. And Rebecca is not afraid to break your heart. Homegirl broke my heart in the first book, and I said, yes, please, here's my heart. I stitched it back up. Please don't break it again. She broke it again, and she's probably going to do it more. There's going to be 2 more books in this series, and I think we have to wait like 2 years for the next book. So eventually we're going to do a reread, maybe a breakdown, but I'm going to leave it there for right now. I drank the Kool-Aid. I enjoyed it. If you like fantasy, if you like romantasy, I guess I should clarify because there is a difference, and this is romantasy, not safe for kiddos, but still a good time. My next physical books that I read were A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon and A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. Now, these 2 are the first and second books in at least a trilogy. I don't know if Sarah has any plans to write more about the Glimmer Falls universe, but if she does, it would be an instant buy for me. I have gotten into kind of the bad habit of I'll go to my local bookstore, and if I see a book that I like and sounds interesting, I buy it because I am lucky enough to be able to do that, and I read it. And that's what happened last October. I picked up the 3rd book in this series, not knowing that it was the 3rd book, and I really liked it. And so I really liked it, and I went to go see if there was anything else out there with it. And then I found out it was the 3rd book. And I was like, oh, oh no. But my oh no became a nice little surprise because I had 2 other books I can read. And I don't know why I waited until January to read them because they are wonderful. Glimmer Falls that's like the universe that we're in. And it's a modern day contemporary town that has magic. So there are witches in this town, werewolves, fairies, vampires, you name it. We got it there. And as these 2 titles might suggest, demons. But the demons are rare, and they're not always the good guys. So these are both enemies to lovers. And her 3rd one actually too is kind of enemies to lovers. She knows how to write it. It's good. It's a little bit magical. I really loved these books. I have my little notepad here so I remember what I rated everything because the first 2 months of this year, I read so many good books. I've been so fortunate that the books that I've read have been really amazing. So I gave both of these books 4 stars. I really liked them. They're very high up on my overall ranked list of the year, and I would recommend them. I don't think I'd recommend them to a first time dipping your toe into the romance pool. I think I might recommend like Julia Quinn for that. But if you read romance, I would recommend all three of the books. I don't have the other book pulled out right now because I read that last year. And I think maybe I'll go through and do a video on all the books that I read in 2024 and where they fall on my ranking. Because I think that might be a fun idea. So I ended January and started February with 3 books from the same author. They are the only books this author has published, and I read all 3 of them back to back to back. I didn't know who she was. Her name's Kaitlyn Hill. I didn't know who she was before January. I actually was lucky enough to meet Jo Segura, the author of Temple of Swoon, in January when she released her book. And Kaitlyn Hill was with her at the book event that I was at, and they kind of interviewed each other. And Kaitlyn was also promoting her book, her newest book of the 3. And as I previously said, if I'm at the bookstore and I see a book that sounds interesting, I'm normally going to buy it because I know that I'll read it and it'll be something that brings me joy. I love collecting books. So the fact that these were some romances that I hadn't heard of before but that looked good and that I could get signed copies from, I was like, please take my money. Please take my money. So the first one, I read them in the order she released them. And I started at the end of January with Love from Scratch. I was so excited. I love baking and I love reading and I love romance. And this had all 3. I also went into this though, if you know Jo Segura, you know she's not afraid of spicy. Her first book, hot tamale spicy. Her second book also spicy. So I went into this kind of blind, just trusting a cute cover and a signed copy of a book. And I read it and I got to like the last fourth of the book and I was like, where is the spice? Where is it? I'm like looking for it. It's a missing ingredient. Get it? And it's not a spicy book. Kaitlyn Hill is actually, I don't know if she's actually young adult, but like in my mind, her books are young adult because there's no spice. And there's nothing wrong with that. I loved this book. I really liked all 3 of her books. And they were so cute. Like giggling, kicking my feet excited to read them. And going into the next 2 books, knowing that there would be no spice, also helped set my expectations. And honestly, I'm kind of glad there was no spice. I don't think any of them needed it. And I gave that a 4 stars. I thought it was so good. I was very pleasantly surprised with that book. The next one, so Kaitlyn's second book is Not Here to Stay Friends. Again, no spice. And again, didn't need it. This was kind of like, I don't watch The Bachelor. My reality TV dating show of choice is Love is Blind, but I feel like this is heavily inspired by The Bachelor. Kaitlyn, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a man. We have our guy who is the bachelor of this like college teenage drama, and he has multiple women on this dating show. I guess I should say that they're on a dating show and there's one guy and there's a whole bunch of girls and they're all trying to be his leading lady because he is actually an actor in real life. And our main girl, Salome, I definitely just checked the back of this book to remember her name. Salome kind of is a last-minute replacement for the reality show. She was just there to hang out with her best friend, who's a PA on the show, and she kind of gets pulled in last minute. And the book, the romance is between her and her best friend realizing that they love each other. So this one's a Friends to Lovers. It was really good, but it wasn't as good, in my opinion, as her first one. And maybe that's just because I didn't watch The Bachelor. If you like The Bachelor, I really think you would like this. I gave it a 3.5 stars. I thought it was still a good book. But I think her other two are better. So popping over into Wild About You, this is her newest novel. I don't remember when it came out, but this one is kind of like if you watch other reality TV shows. My other reality TV show of choice is Survivor. I'm a big Survivor nerd, watched every season live. This is probably closer to The Amazing Race, but in my brain, I read it and I was like, this is Survivor. Jeff Probst is actually the guy who does this. He's not. But in my brain, it was kind of like Survivor. And so we have these pairs of people, so probably more like Amazing Race. And it's all college students. And they're competing to win this reality TV show that will give them a scholarship. And our male and female lead, they both need the scholarship. Like, the scholarship would be great for both of them. Our girl, Natalie, needs it to go to school. She needs the scholarship. Otherwise, she's not going to be able to go to school next year. And I had to check the back again for our male main lead, and that's Finn. He would like the scholarship, but that's not the main reason he's there. But I'm not going to tell you the main reason he's there because that would be a spoiler. Let's just say, like me, he's a super fan of the reality show that is the reality show in this book. And they are complete opposites. Everything they do. They are upset that they were paired together. But they're making the best out of it because they both desperately want to be there and they both desperately want to win. So I loved it. I loved the reality competition. I loved everything about it. I gave it 4 stars. I might read this again later because it was that good. And so that was all of January and a little bit of February. A couple of those books I talked about were actually either finished or were read in February, but I thought it made more sense to talk about them with the other books either by the same author or like in the series. So the first book that I did in February, so the book is Outlander. Like I said, I tried to get in the TV series multiple times. And I just couldn't. I would get like halfway through the first season and almost the same part every time. It just lost me. So I thought to myself, do the audiobook. Maybe that is what you actually need to like get into it. So I started the audiobook and I had such high hopes. And if you can't tell, it wasn't the one for me. I did finish it, but I didn't like it. Please don't come for me in the comments. If you love Outlander and that is like your jam, your bread and butter, it's what you need, I love that for you. It's not what I need. There were just a bit too many violent scenes. I like to read to see the best of the world and to live through other people's lives. I love reading romance because I love watching people fall in love, and I like to see people that have it all. They have the careers they want, they have the loves they want, and this just wasn't that. It really wasn't. I did finish the book. I got very stubborn and I was like, I will finish Outlander book 1 if it's the last thing I do. It thankfully was not the last thing I did, but I didn't love it. I gave it 2 stars, and that's it. Just 2 little stars. I thought about giving it 1 star, but I at least finished it. So moving on from Outlander, the next one I read was one of my other most anticipated books of the year. I got so lucky. 2 of my most anticipated books of the year came out in January and February. I'm a big Ali Hazelwood fan. So of course I had to go out the day it was released and buy Deep End. And yes, I got the sprayed edge copy because it's beautiful. I've read all of Ali Hazelwood books, and I love them. I think she's such a talented author. I think she's such a talented human. If you don't know, Ali Hazelwood, besides being a best-selling novelist, she's a neuroscientist. She is literally the coolest person ever. I've gotten my chance to meet her. Ooh, that wasn't how it came out. I've gotten the chance to meet Ali, and she's so sweet and kind. So she is one of those instant buy authors for me. All of her works are contemporary romances. She has one that is a fantasy. That's Bride. It's sitting, I don't know if you can see it on my shelf. I have a whole Ali shelf. And her female leads are normally in STEM. So Deep End is a little bit different from her other works. We are in college. These are some college students. They're a junior and a senior, I believe. And we are on the swimming and diving team in Stanford. And when I say this is the spiciest book I think I have ever read in my entire life, guys, this is not a first-time romance novel. It's not even a second-time romance novel. Our queen warned us. Our queen warned us. She put, I love it when authors give us content warnings and set us up for success. Because there are some things that if you're not warned about, and I think that might have been my problem with Outlander, I wasn't warned. So very spicy. She talks, like literally the first page is a disclaimer of exploration of kinks. So I would say read with caution if you've never read anything like that before. I think Ali did a wonderful job of using this book. Ooh, my whole stack almost fell. Okay. I think Ali did a wonderful job of using this book to teach us. And I think looking back at her other books, I think Ali does a wonderful job in her novels of teaching us different aspects of love, and not just intimate love, but all types of love. And in this book, it is kind of intimate love, and feeling safe in intimate love is so big. So I love Ali Hazelwood. She also always makes sure that like consent is talked about and given, which is so big. So Ali Hazelwood will forever be one of my all-time favorite authors. I love her. I gave Deep End a 4 stars. Like, it was a very good book. It wasn't. I gave Deep End 4 stars. It was a very good book. It opened my eyes. It really did. It opened my eyes to a lot. I learned a lot. And it's just, even the very intimate scenes, they're like still well written, and there's still a reason for them. It's not just spicy for the sake of spicy. Okay, I guess sometimes it's spicy for the sake of spicy, but there's still a plot there. And it's not just I'm doing it or watching it for the plot, and the plot is this ripped man. I mean, yes, but it's a very good book. I digress. My next book is, I have the first book of the trilogy, but I've read the first 2 books. So it's Crazy Rich Asians. If you've ever seen the movie, fantastic. If you liked the movie, you'll like the book. I think it stays pretty true. Like, the movie did a great job of adapting this book. I gave it a 3.75 stars. I really liked it. I think it did such a good job. I didn't know that this was actually a trilogy, and I liked this first book so much that I immediately went into the second book. The second book is China Rich Girlfriend. I should have given myself some time. I really should have. I was so excited because of how well Crazy Rich Asians went that I was like, ooh, let's go. Let's hop into book 2. And I just didn't love it as much. So both of the books are multi-POV, and all of my favorite characters from the first book kind of go to the wayside. And I feel like they're more secondary characters in the second book. And like, not in a good way. And some of my characters that I really loved changed, I feel like, from the first book to the second book. So the first book, like I said, I gave it 3.75 stars. The second book, I gave it 3. So it wasn't, it was an average book. It was an average book. But I'm going to give myself some time before jumping in to the third book. I do plan on reading the third book, but I was going to give myself some space to maybe appreciate it more and like let myself have those fond feelings. So after Crazy Rich Asians, I tried something new. The past couple years, I have been primarily a romance reader. I should get a shirt that says romance reader because that is my bread and butter. Love it. But recently, I've realized that I like a good, cozy mystery. So I picked up because it looked funny. Every time I go on vacation, somebody dies. Dun dun dun. This was a funny book. It was a cozy, I would definitely classify it. It was a cozy mystery. But it was funny. There are footnotes in this book, and they are hilarious footnotes. It wasn't my favorite book of the year. It wasn't a bad book, but I think the thing that I couldn't really move past is our main character was just a touch too annoying. I have a problem when the main character that I'm supposed to root for is annoying. It's maybe my fatal blah 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 blah. It's maybe my fatal flaw as a reader. If the main character is annoying, I can't get past it. So I only gave this book a 3 stars. I thought it was average. But it wasn't a bad book. I think the author is coming out with a second book this year in this series, and I'll probably read it. I don't know if I'm convinced of buying it yet. It might be a library book for me, but I did like it enough that I will read the second one. The next one on my list, I actually don't have a copy of because it was an audiobook for me, and it's The Woman Who Would Be King. So the author, Cooney, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, is an Egyptologist. The author is a historian who focuses on Egypt, and this is her second book, I think, and she does a great job of taking what she has factually and putting it into a way everyday readers can enjoy. This was a book that I listened to on audio, and I thought it was really good. It was a short and sweet 10 hours. I think I did it over a course of 3 days, and I really liked it. This was another 3 stars for me, only because it was a little bit dry, but I don't know. I feel bad about saying that. I would recommend it. And finally, my last 2 books that I read of February are Collide and Spiral. I think this is something a lot of people know about me. I like a good hockey romance. I eat it up. And this is a really good hockey romance. It's cheesy, like, don't get me wrong. So cheesy. But it's really good. So our first one in the series is Collide, and we are seniors in college, and it is between a psychology student and our hockey player. And our second one is post-grad with a different hockey player on the same team, both in college and professionally, as our first hockey player, and a professional ballerina, Swoons. I really liked both of them. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I fear this video is already running long. But they were lovely. They were what I wanted. They were a quick sports romance, and I mean that in the best of way. I've heard that sometimes authors don't like it when readers refer to their book as like a quick read, but I honestly think that's one of the highest compliments I can give to somebody. If I can't put your book down, so I'm reading it nonstop, so it's a quick read for me, I think that's great. What do you think, Nike? I gave Collide 3.5 stars and Spiral 4 stars. And even like as I've said this, like I think they're both really good. I think maybe I should have done like 3.75 and 4 stars. As long as you know what you're getting into. They're both spicy. They're both about hockey players. There's a 3rd book coming out in October. I'm definitely going to buy it. It will go on my shelf in its place of honor. Totally distracted by the cats. So yeah, that's everything that I read in January and February. I think I'm sitting at like near 30 books with all of these. And March has been a little bit of a slower month for me. So that's everything I've read in the first 2 months of this year. It was a lot. I made a little goal to try and read a little bit every single day, and this is the result. March has been a little bit slower for me. I actually just missed my first day of reading every single day, and I'm so bummed. I'm so bummed. I didn't realize it. It was such a busy day, and I didn't even realize until halfway through the next day that I had missed my first day of reading a physical book this year. But yeah, March has just been a little bit slower, so the next recap would be a little bit slower. Let me know if you're interested in me doing a review of my 2024 books. I didn't read nearly as many books in 2024. I think the first 2 months of 2025, I have read almost the same number of books I read in all of 2024. So it'll probably be about the same length as this video. Maybe a little bit shorter if I just do like a tier ranking. I also have some other plans for some videos coming out soon. My release dates are going to be on Tuesdays because that's when new books drop. So every Tuesday when new books are dropping, come back and check out the channel because there will be some sort of new book-related content. Hopefully there will be kitty cats involved. This is Nike. She just likes to rub up against the mic. But yeah, I'm so excited to do this. I'm so happy. I get to tell all of my friends what I'm reading. And hopefully you guys get some good recommendations, you know? What better way to know if you want to read a book and if you want to buy or borrow a book than having someone else's recommendations. And over the next several videos, we can build this trust. And you can be like, you know what, I like Mackenzie's recommendations. Or you can be like, that girl doesn't know what she's talking about, but she has cute cats, so I'm going to come back for those kitties. Until next time, bye.